Hello and welcome to Inside the Admissions Office, your one-stop shop for expert advice on the smart way to get in. My name is Kayla, and each episode I'll bring you an interview with a former admissions officer, a graduate of a top college, or an admissions expert. These interviews will take you inside the admissions office and will be full of behind-the-scenes knowledge, first-hand experiences, and application tips that will help you get into your dream school. This week, we're joined by Erin Gu, the Chief Education Officer at InGenius Prep, to talk about college admissions and how they will be impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Hi, Erin. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, it's good to be here. I hope everybody's safe and staying healthy during this difficult time.
Yeah, I wish you were here under better circumstances. I also hope everyone is doing really well. We wanted to put together this podcast as soon as possible because we've been getting a lot of questions from our families and our students, as well as our online community about college admissions and how that's going to be impacted by everything that's happening right now. So I brought on Erin, who's our Chief Education Officer, as I said, to just kind of talk about the changes that are happening and to give our families and our students some advice. So just to start, I think, just in general, can you just kind of speak to how college admissions as a whole might be impacted just broadly?
Yeah, so colleges are facing with two big challenges right now. I was actually in a forum for higher ed professionals talking about the impact of coronavirus on colleges in general. So a lot of schools are working on, obviously moving their classes online. So that is something that they're doing for their current students, but it is taking up a lot of time and energy from the college institutional perspective. But at the same time, they're also thinking about admissions for this year. As we know, offers are out and for some schools, and some schools are still waiting, and we'll be releasing that in the next couple of days. So the admissions decisions for this year's seniors will not actually be impacted because most of those have already been decided. But colleges are working on and thinking about new strategies for recruitment. More than one, a lot of students will have multiple offers and they are deciding where to go. And so college used to be able to rely on, admitted students events, having the students come on their campus, meeting them in person at like alum or admitted students gatherings in different cities. But all of those events are going to be canceled and they no longer have these options at their disposal. So colleges are looking at other ways to attract students and bring them online and get to them and know them or to know their school, and really working to try to convince the students to choose them. So that is something that's impacting this year's students. For next year's applicants, so current 11th graders or juniors, high school juniors, I think a lot of students and families also have questions about whether or not colleges will be changing their admissions policies or preferences in light of this event. And I asked a similar question to a forum of higher education professionals, and the answer I received was that unlikely. So the colleges will understand that there will be fewer standardized testing options for students. So the University of Chicago already shared information that they will be reading applications in context and don't require subject tests or AP tests to help ease students and families' anxiety about not being able to take them during this time. So that will be relatively something that I think most schools will be considering in this process. In addition to that, there's questions about sort of the mix of students, if they would prefer more local students or students from out of state or international students, if that mix is going to change. I think it's still a little bit too early to say because we don't know how long this virus will be impacting the normal ways in which the colleges function. For example, we don't know if summer if summer sessions or summer programming for high school students are still running or not, or they'll be impacted, and what enrollment looks like in the fall. Because from a college perspective, it is also about the tuition payments and how much potentially state or government funding that they have, and how big is their endowment, and all those financial factors as well. So I think those will all sort of impact the ultimate admissions decisions. But I think for the most part, institutions are looking to retain or recruit the same number of students, if not more students. They are looking to still bring diverse communities together. They're still looking for that, being that beacon of hope and also education for our youth. And so I don't think that the colleges will be making any dramatic changes in terms of the admissions decisions that are coming later this fall or early next year. So that's what I think where we stand right now. But obviously, as things evolve and change, those decisions might get impacted later on, but we wouldn't know for the time being.
Right. It's definitely hard to know. None of us really know how long anything is going to last. But I think it is comforting to hear that schools like U Chicago are already starting to think about changing their policies a little bit and just letting students know that, we know that your life is changing right now, that you're moving to online classes, that testing is impacted, so we know your applications are going to look a little bit different than they normally would.
Yeah, it's definitely good for colleges to be reassuring all of us that they're thinking about this. And I think that's the key to college admissions in general, is that all applications are read in context, right? They understand sort of what the student's coming from, if they've been out of school for a very long time versus, they just started to move to online classes. If their school doesn't actually offer online classes, maybe they're just quarantine, the school is closed and there is no online programming from the school, they're not going to hold this against the student. It's sort of what you do in the context that you're in that makes a difference.
Right. So speaking of online learning, for those students who their schools are transitioning to this, and maybe this advice will even be helpful to parents as they start working remotely, I'm wondering if you have any advice just for kind of staying productive and just having a successful as possible transition to online learning.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on the exact formatting of the online classes. So some online classes will be like a live class, right? So you still have all the students together, you have the teacher teaching at the same time that they've usually taught. And they are so that's one set. And then there are other kinds of online classes where the teacher is actually recording their lecture or recording the materials that they are teaching and then giving the homework to the students. So the students can have a little bit more flexibility on when to watch those videos and how they watch those videos and how to then apply it to their homework assignments. So I think these two different formats need a little bit different strategy to help students stay focused. So for the online platform live version, I think it's really, really important that when a student is in that setting, that there is absolutely no distraction from anything else on their computer. They just open the classroom and then maybe a Word doc for taking notes, and they have to be paying attention 100% just as if they were in the classroom, and maybe even more so because you'll be able to see all of the other students and their faces, and if there's, if you start to look at them and the silly faces that they're making, then you're going to be really distracted from what the teacher is talking about. So really engaging in the classroom environment. It will be really hard to do that for a long time of the day, and so hopefully the schools that do that are giving students breaks in between those classes and to really disengage during that time from the computer, to really take a break from the screen, walk around, to go outside, play with your dog, do something different, and then come back for the next class. So that's really, really important. For students who have the option of just watching the videos at their own pace, it is a mixed blessing. It's a little bit easier because you're in more control and you probably don't need to focus as intensively for as long of a time as you do in an online live class. But it also is harder to make yourself sit down and actually do it. And so the good one good strategy people could try and students could try is to actually have like a schedule for themselves. So structure your day. Say that you get up around the same time, or it could be later, but at the same time every day, and start your class, and maybe you choose the first class you want to watch, and you do either the same or you intentionally switch it up every day. You do a rotation, almost like your class schedule. So that it becomes a routine and it's more consistent. And the key there is also to minimize distractions as much as possible from the other family members in your house, from other online platforms. So putting your phone on mute, closing all the other windows, watching the video, and looking at the relevant text or books and the documents to take notes. And the good thing about watching videos is you can watch it multiple times, right? So if there's a piece that you don't understand, you go back and watch it again. And if you still don't understand after a couple attempts, ask a friend, ask your teacher, and to engage in those ways to make sure that you really do understand what is happening. So like having a schedule and then definitely taking breaks as well. So don't try to do everything all together. Have like a 30-minute or 40-minute or 45-minute work time, concentrated work time, and then take a 10-minute break and do another 40 to 45 minutes, and then take a longer break, like a half-hour break, get lunch, do something fun, and then come back. And so have more of a routine and just lay out your work for yourself. That's super important.
Yeah, I think those are all really great tips. I know just for myself, I'm not in school, but I've been working from home for about a week now. And I think having that schedule and that routine has really helped. And I've also found, like, for me in my house, I've set myself up with a little workstation, like little desks to kind of remove the distractions, to act as I'm in a workplace, not just in my house. So if students find that helpful too, I think that can be a really great thing to do. So earlier we also were talking about standardized testing, and I think it's hard to know with this too. We don't know if schools like UChicago, if all schools are going to do test optional right now, but we do know that testing locations have been closed for the next few months for the SAT, the ACT, AP tests. So how should students be kind of reconfiguring their testing schedule, and kind of how should they prepare for this if they're unable to take their tests in time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so right now we know that the March ones were impacted for some, and the makeup tests for SAT were canceled. And the May SAT is canceled. Right now it looks like June is still, you can still register for the June test. So I definitely encourage students who have already been preparing to take the SAT to then just go ahead and register for the June one, and probably the August one as well when it opens, just in case the June one also gets canceled. So that is like a testing strategy aspect. In terms of studying and preparing, I think the standardized tests their goal is to be able to assess the students' skill set in reading comprehension and solving problems, in solving them quickly and accurately. And so these skills are transferable skills that apply across the board. And so if you find standardized testing prep, doing these problems that's really, really tedious and boring, I think the other way to prepare is to just increase your practice generally of those skills. So like read more, you have more time on your hands now. Read more, read a variety, news articles, anything of interest, novels, books, curated pieces. I think a lot of students get thrown off when the SAT has a passage from, the 18th century or something like that, where the language is different from today's language. So having a variety and of experience there would help you eventually on the standardized tests. Same with math. Math maybe is more sort of a review. If you can review some of the older concepts that you've learned in 10th grade or even ninth grade, that might be helpful to just think about. And especially if you have younger siblings at home, helping them with their homework actually is a good way for you to refresh your memories of those skills and to help you better prepare for the test.
Yeah, definitely, especially for students who have some extra time on their hands. A small silver lining, I think, is that there is some extra prep time to help you really score, well on those tests.
Mm-hmm.
So we also mentioned how now that admissions officers, they always read in context. Now that they'll be reading in the context of learning from home or having school canceled for the next couple months, and how it's kind of what you do with that situation. So for students who have extra time, for students who had their extracurricular activities, their competitions canceled, and have those opportunities taken away from them, how can they take advantage of this time to kind of still participate in activities so that they can show admissions officers, I was still doing something productive during this time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it is a challenge that all of our students are facing across the world at this moment. And so it really depends on sort of the motivation of the student and their own initiative, even more so than before. And so there are a lot of opportunities to still connect with other students and to organize efforts. Our students are so used to being online already anyway, leveraging their Instagram accounts, leveraging their Snapchat conversations, organizing things that are in a remote way, connecting people, helping support, maybe finding ways to stay connected to the activities they were engaged in. So say that if you were volunteering at a local shelter or local senior center or something, reaching out to the staff there to see if there's online versions of you providing that kind of support before, if the seniors need a companion, people are lonely these days. And if you're isolated at home, then you need more social interaction, not less. And so being able to offer that social interaction through an online platform is a really great way to demonstrate that you've continued your involvement in the activities that you were engaged in. As for a more academic side of things, I think exploring that a little bit more on their own, reading more college level materials and finding those resources online and sharing them with other people is also very helpful. So a lot of colleges have recorded lectures and online classes already that are available to students. And so we can certainly look into those opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I definitely think, of course, doing these kind of things, reaching out, continuing your activities, or starting independent projects obviously isn't just for college admissions. I think it's really important that, everyone is kind of stuck at home. There's not much to do. You might be tempted to just watch TV all day, but I think mental health wise, that can get really tough. And so just staying active and, of course, supporting your community during this time, I think is just incredibly important for students to do.
Yeah, and being creative too. I think this is a good time for all the artists and the musicians and maybe even the chefs in the world. This is a good time to spend some time on your art and on your craft and producing something creative to share with the world, to bring a little bit of beauty into the world in a difficult time. I think it's also what we need as humans.
Yeah, of course, definitely. So along with kind of closures and students not being able to do the opportunities that they were planning on. So obviously, again, we don't know quite what's going to happen this summer, but I know a lot of students are worried about their summer plans. If they're planning on going to camps or taking courses at colleges, they're wondering what kind of backup plans they should be making now.
Yeah. So it it is possible that the different locations in the US will be impacted differently. And so it's possible that maybe some local communities or local opportunities will remain open, even if the opportunities that we had planned on being in another state or on the other coast might not be at play. So I think always thinking about the local community and see what's there and what the health situation there is. I think it's a good backup plan to find some local resources that could potentially still be available for that time. As we know more. And then the other things that are just to see if like there's any remote or online maybe internships that are available for students, because business will still be running hopefully for the most part, and if anything they would appreciate some maybe unpaid internships from high school students who are eager to work and contribute and also help the companies move onto an online platform as well and online marketing. So I think there's definitely a need from that aspect. And outside of that, just thinking about the activities that they have been doing and how do they take those maybe to the next level, right? If you have already been very involved, same example, right? To continue that example, if you've already been very involved in volunteer activities in your local community, can you reach out to similar opportunities in other areas, right? Maybe in the town next door or in the state across the border next to you, to connect with other students and other organizers who are facing similar challenges, and to crowdsource and to share ideas and establish an online platform or forum where you bring together people who work in the same industry or are facing the same challenges to talk about solutions together and to brainstorm together. So these are all ways that you can expand your impact by doing something that not necessarily need to always be in person or to be an organized activity like a summer camp.
Yeah, definitely. I think the activities that students start doing from home now can definitely continue through the summer. I think also doing kind of independent projects if you aren't able to find any organizations that are taking help right now, or if you can't find ways to still connect with your groups. If you're interested in film, maybe like making a short film about what your life is like when you're stuck at home, doing research projects, like science-based research projects about, how this virus is affecting different communities. I think there's a lot of kind of independent capstone projects that you can do, and that can make its way onto your activities list later.
For sure, yes. And being independent and self-directed is also a characteristic that a lot of the highly selective colleges look for in their students. So it's always a good idea to initiate an independent project as well.
Yeah, definitely. So before I let you go, do you have any kind of last words of wisdom or advice for our students and parents listening?
Yeah, I think this is a definitely an unprecedented time for all of us, and so colleges will understand because admissions officers are experiencing this themselves and probably working remotely for the first time in their lives and having to work with their children who are also out of school or learning remotely. And I think it really is sort of what do you do with the circumstance, and this is really, really important time to not be too negatively impacted by what's happening in the world, and staying positive and staying motivated and actually finding things to spend your time and to care about other people and other things, and to not spend all day sitting in front of a TV and watching TV and being couch potato is probably the most important thing, and just to engage with other people and keep the conversations going. We are ultimately a social animal and social beings, and so it's really important that we are part of a community and to stay engaged with each other throughout this.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to remember that everyone in this situation is human. College admissions officers are human too. They're going to understand what's going on. They're going to understand if you go through a bit of a hard time with your grades or your testing. We're all going through this together.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Erin. Again, I wish you were here on better circumstances. And again, we're hoping that everyone is at home staying safe and healthy with their families, and we're wishing you guys the best.
Yes, stay safe, everyone.
And we also want to make sure that we can continue being a resource for everyone as the situation kind of unfolds and we learn more. So I'll be linking a lot of resources down below. If you're listening to this on Monday when it comes out, we're actually having a webinar tomorrow about college admissions, and Erin will be speaking again with a former admissions officer from Yale, Susan Shiflett. So I will put the link to that below if you'd like to register for that last minute. We also have some blogs coming out about how students can spend their time, some more independent research project ideas that I'll link below, online resources just for staying active and staying healthy. So I'll put all of those below. And of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can visit our website, any of our social sites, and please ask any questions you have there. I hope you all stay safe and healthy and that you'll join me next time as we continue our journey inside the admissions office.